You might be surprised that I'm a mortgage advisor telling you, do not buy a house. But my job as a mortgage advisor is to provide the best possible advice I can to potential home buyers, which is why I'm telling you to please, please do not buy a home if any of these things apply to you. You want to buy your first home, but maybe you don't have 20% to put down or perfect credit. That's okay. If you're committed to a home purchase, then I'm here to help you do just that, maybe even sooner than you thought possible. My name is Scott Wynn, and I am a licensed mortgage advisor with the Wynn and Egan team at Citywide Home Loans. If you want to buy a home in the next 12 months, then click that subscribe button, and together we'll make it happen. Buying a house is simply not the right choice sometimes. Let's dive in and see when buying is not the right move. Did you catch that? Is not the right move. Okay, moving on. Are you considering buying a home because you think you should? Well, don't do it. It's the American dream, right? Buying a house and starting a business. And there's a lot of pressure to pursue those things, especially buying a house. It's the script, as MJ DeMarco would say. Go to school, get a good job, get married, buy a house, have 2.5 kids, get a dog and a cat. You know, the script. But that is not a reason you should buy a house. You should buy a house because you want to, because it's the right time for you, because you're ready. So if you're not ready, do not buy a house. Have you ever been on a job interview and been asked the question,
so where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, they may be onto something here. If you can't answer the question of where you see yourself in 5 years with some level of confidence, then buying a home may just not be in the cards right now. Let me explain what I mean. Let's just say that right now you live downtown. You love it, right? There are restaurants, your friends are there, you enjoy the nightlife. Everything is so close. Right now, that's great. But what about 5 years from now? Are you still gonna want that same lifestyle? Or are you gonna want something a little different? If you can't confidently say that where you are today is generally where you'd like to be 5 years from now, then do not buy a house. All right, I'm gonna get a little personal here, and I hope that's okay. Let's talk about your romantic relationship. Do you have one? How's it going? Are they the one? Here's why this is relevant. Let's just say you're single, no relationship whatsoever, and you're considering a home purchase. You would consider a very different type of home than if you were married, right? On the other hand, let's say you are in a relationship, but you don't see this relationship as being a long-term thing. Well, if you purchased a home with this person, you'd be setting yourself up for a disaster, especially if you're counting on both your income and their income to be able to make the monthly payment. And it could have been avoided if you just paused for a moment and considered, what is the state of the relationship? Do you see yourselves staying together? So if you're not sure about your existing relationship, or you know that the existing relationship isn't long-term, then do not buy a house. My wife and I recently made a move, and it was a big move. And there were a ton of decisions to make, right? What to take with us, what to sell, what to give away. And on the other end, when we were unpacking, how we wanted to lay out the kitchen, where to put the couch in the living room, where to hang that picture on the wall. Seems like all simple decisions, right? But they add up. And all of that creates stress. And stress creates conflict. You'll be happy to know we made it through. And more happily than ever. But it's because we both wanted to move. So if you and your significant other are not on the same page when it comes to buying a house, then don't buy a house. Have you ever listened to any of those financial gurus out there? You know, people like Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman. Well, I can tell you, they don't normally agree on many things, but there is one thing that almost all of them agree on. And the one thing that they agree on is having an emergency fund. But that's about where it stops. Some people think you should have 1 month. Some people think you should have 12 months. Well, here's my opinion. Just seeing thousands of people's finances is, I would say, the absolute bare minimum is 1 month. Generally, I think you should have somewhere between 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in an emergency savings fund. Things happen, whether it's medical expenses, car trouble, maybe pets that need to go to the vet, whatever it might be, having an emergency savings fund is critically important to your financial success. And buying a home is a big financial commitment. So if you don't have an emergency savings fund set aside, do not buy a house. I remember buying my first house. I was tapped out. I used every last dollar in my checking and savings account to bring that money to closing to make it possible. So if you don't have an emergency savings fund set aside, do not buy a house. Not only that, but I maxed out my payment as high as I could go. You might be wondering why I did that, especially since I was in the mortgage business. But that's exactly why I did it. I felt that I would be a hypocrite if I didn't own my own home. So I did everything I could in order to make that home purchase possible. You should buy a house because you want to, because it's the right time for you. Well, guess what? Literally, the day after I moved in, the hot water heater broke and flooded the bottom floor. Something I was not expecting and certainly not prepared for. Remember, I spent every last dollar just getting into the house. So thank goodness my parents bailed me out, literally. We cleaned up the water in the basement and we bought a new hot water heater. And when I say we, I mean they bought it for me. The moral of the story, houses need maintenance. We're talking about hot water heaters, paint, appliances, windows. In fact, I actually had a bird fly into one of our windows in our house that we're in right now. So if you're not prepared for and willing to do home maintenance, then do not buy a house. So I shared with you that I purchased my first house at age 19, and I probably didn't do it in the best possible way, tapping out on both cash at closing as well as the monthly payment, but I'm certainly glad that I did. It has served me really well over the years. In fact, a couple years after purchasing my first home, I read a book. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. After reading that book, I was convinced I was going to be the next real estate mogul. So I set out and started looking at different properties that I might be able to buy as an investment and ended up purchasing another primary home while renting my first home out to a renter. I continued to do this, purchasing both investment properties and other primary residences until the point that I own not only my own home, but 3 additional rental properties, all with 100% financing, sometimes even 103% financing. Now those loans don't really exist anymore, especially when it comes to buying investment properties, but that's what I did. Those 5 years and a few years past that were really tough. In fact, it was all during that recession in 2008 when I owned all these properties. I was upside down in equity. I owed more than the home was worth. I had renters in there paying, but I didn't have enough rent in order to pay the mortgage payment. So I had to cover the difference out of my own pocket. I didn't have any extra money, so I ended up managing the properties myself and doing a lot of the maintenance myself as much as I possibly could. But I'm glad I did. Ultimately, it allowed me to accumulate my wealth. I ended up selling those properties in around 2015, 2016, and took the money and put it into my own primary residence, one that I could enjoy rather than dealing with all of the things that come along with owning multiple properties. But if I had never purchased that first home, I'm not sure where I would be today. There are some tremendous benefits of owning your own home and sometimes owning other homes as well. But it's not right for everyone, and it's not always the right time. No one, except you, can tell you when that time is. Certainly advisors can help, whether it's a mortgage advisor identifying how much you would qualify for, or maybe a real estate advisor giving you an idea of what neighborhoods might be affordable for you, or what houses you might want to look at. But you'll need to be the one to decide when it's the right time to buy. Did I answer the question you came looking for? If not, leave your question in the comments below and I'll be sure to reply. And if you found the info helpful, I'd love a click on that like button. If you're serious about making your first home purchase, then I've got a ton of great info for you to help make that possible. Check out these other videos as you work towards buying a home. Or you can call or text me and I can help you directly.